Hello, everyone, and welcome to Team Redline's Real Racers Never Quit. This time, we have a tribute to motorsport legends. I am Connery Maddock. I'm joined by Sumil Arora for this one, and Team Redline, in memory of the unfortunate loss of Sir Sterling Moss, has decided to put this event on to basically pay tribute to great racing legends in our time here, Sumil. And of course, Sir Sterling Moss, basically the greatest driver never to win a Formula One World Championship. It always seemed to elude him, but he was a racer through and through, and what better way to remember him than going racing here on the virtual side of things.
Indeed, Sir Sterling Moss, what an absolute legend of the sport he was. Although he never quite got that World Championship that he so deserved, I think he was much more than the greatest driver that Formula One ever had without winning a championship. I think it's befitting that we today have a race here in the virtual world at one of his favourite tracks, in fact, Silverstone. And I think it's about time that we can get going, pay tribute to Sir Sterling Moss with a tremendous race and have some good racing action today.
Yeah, and of course, if you're used to the way things work here on the Team Redline Real Racers Never Quit series, these are basically all pro drivers from the real world side of things. So you have the likes of, yes, you have Max Verstappen, you have the Van der Lindes, you have a couple of other drivers further down. We have René Rast from DTM fame. You also have Rubens Barrichello making an appearance here today. And you also a name I spotted as well, Sumil, just before we went live. Nicholas Hamilton is deciding to join us today.
Well, Connery, it is quite an interesting mix of drivers that we've got over here. Some current drivers, some professional sim racing drivers, and of course some drivers of back in the day as well. So overall, it does present quite an interesting mix of drivers that we have here that will be racing in these conditions over here. So it'll be a good race, a lot of talented drivers, a lot of big mixing up going on over here. And in the end, I think, with drivers from such different eras and such different generations, I think it's going to be a tremendous combination. And watching it is definitely going to be a lot of fun.
And some of you might have noticed already, depends on how eagle-eyed you are, is that we are not racing on the most recent layout of the Silverstone circuit. We're going back to the all-high-speed version, pre-2008 here. So the start-finish line is on the run towards Copse Corner as turn number 1. And, of course, is the old-look Abbey coming into Bridge, into Priory, into Brooklands, towards the final sector of the lap as well. So, as things were just, well, it's well over a decade ago at this point, Sumil. It feels like it was yesterday that this track had been redesigned.
Yeah, indeed, it's been quite a while, and the old layout, in fact, is quite incredible as well. The drivers will now turn in left from Abbey, past the Bridge Corner and through to Brooklands. So they avoid the Farm Corner, the Village, the Loop, Aintree and all that part, and even the Wellington Straight, in fact. But this one is also not too bad. They get quite a flowing layout. It's a bit shorter than the new one, that's for sure, but this one isn't too bad either. Expect some crashes, and of course we still have the incredible Beckett's Chapel and the Stoke Corner as well. So it's not too bad of a track. It's a bit more flowing, it's a bit more faster, and for the drivers it should be a lot of fun to drive, and hopefully that should produce a good race for us tonight.
Of course, we are using the Lotus 79s here on our racing to go racing here today, and well, it's an absolute beast of a car. It was an absolute beast of a car in its day as well, in the real world side of things, taking the 1978 Formula One World Championship in a dominant fashion. The only two races it didn't come first and didn't retire were 6th and 10th, and every other race that it didn't retire, it was first place. So it was so it grabbed 6 race wins in the 1978 season, split amongst Mario Andretti and Ronnie Peterson. So it was a very competitive car in its days, Sumil, and we'll see some brilliant racing with it here as well, I bet.
Indeed, it is quite a tough car to drive, the Lotus 79. And speaking of British legends and British racetracks, the Lotus 79 was also one of the later cars to be designed by the great Colin Chapman. So he is, of course, another British racing legend. And that just goes to show you how much of a tribute event this is. British cars honouring a British driver at a British track. It's going to be incredible. And the Lotus 79, well, back in the day, it was an absolute beast, as you mentioned. For these drivers to control this sort of a car, considering how much they drive these more modern cars, it's going to be quite a fun challenge. A Herculean one, you could say, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely is going to be that. As Of course, this was one of those cars which really explored the effectiveness of the ground effect, just allowing that car just to stick to the ground coming through these high-speed corners, and that results in also it not having to run many aggressive, actually aerodynamic elements on the car itself, so it can keep up that straight line speed as well. And it's just absolutely brilliant car. It's very fun to drive in iRacing as well, as we're currently riding on board with Max Verstappen, as this is a little bit more of an antique compared to what he's used to driving in the real world.
Yeah, quite literally, because Max Verstappen, as we all know, he's a master of the Red Bull Formula 1 car, and in fact the F3s as well. But this one, this car goes back a long time. And as you correctly mentioned, this car certainly is a lot of fun. It may not be the fastest, but boy oh boy, it can give you a big smile once you're driving it.
Yeah, especially coming up into this corner that Max is going up on in towards Stowe, as he's just going to tiptoe a little bit through there. He's not going 110%, I suspect, here at the moment. We've still got about 12 minutes of the practice session left, so it's there's no need to go all out at the moment, unless you want to explore the pace when it comes to qualifying. But Verstappen going along well at the moment. He's second place in this practice session at the moment. Kelvin van der Linde holds the top spot, with the only man in the 136 sort of margin. As you can see those names up on the left-hand side of your screen at the moment. And, well, this will give us at least a decent idea of how things will pan out in qualifying. But as was the case in the Real Racers Never Quit series with the more modern machinery, the drivers didn't actually know which car-track combo that we'll be using until very late on. So they're going to have to use all this practice time to their advantage just to get their sights set.
Indeed, and the first mover advantage, pretty much, that the advantage that you have of trying to adapt to cars as soon as possible will play a major role over here, because as you correctly mentioned, they've just been told about this car and this particular track, so they must be knowing it pretty well. And in this, I think, 15 minutes that we had there for practice, they must make complete use of it. Well, some of them may be lucky if they had did a couple of laps in the Lotus 79 prior to this one, but yeah, it should be fun to see how they adapt to this one, and it should be fun to see how they drive on this track, because as we all know, it's been quite a while since we went to the new Silverstone layout, and this old one, well, not a lot of drivers have driven on it, let's say on iRacing pretty much. So getting to grips with this particular car and this particular track is going to be a fun challenge. But again, these are some of the best drivers in the world, and as the name says, real racers never quit. So they'll be giving it all they have to try and make it a good race, and so that they get to use the car as soon as possible as well. So in the end, I think they may be struggling just a little bit to get to grips with the car. Maybe if they haven't adapted as well, but it should be a fun race in the end.
Running on board with Kelvin van der Linde, who was super competitive in the main season, and well, in the Lotus is also very competitive at the moment, holds the fastest time in practice. He is the ADAC GT Masters champion for 2019, and not able to improve his lap time in that last instance, a couple of tenths of a second off, but he'll take the tow back to pit lane, get a fresh car, and get out there on circuit once again. And well, just seeing the time separation at the moment, you can see the top 12 on screen separated by around about a second at the moment. So it seems like everything in that mid pack at the moment, at least in practice session, is seemingly quite congested, and that's what we saw in the main season as well, Subel. So there's going to be a lot of fighting back there if that trend then continues on into quali and race.
Yeah, track space, well, that could be a bit of a challenge for all these drivers, and especially in practice. As you correctly mentioned, these drivers, they don't really have a great idea about, they didn't really have, in fact, a great idea about this particular car and this particular track. So making the best use of this practice is going to be essential, and one thing that certainly does not help is having so many people right in front of you. So they'll have to manage traffic here as well. I'm not sure that that'll be as big of an issue in the main race, but making sure that you have the correct track space, correct open air pretty much, that is going to be a tough task during practice. And if they don't do that, well, it could be a tough qualifying and a tough race for them, because they might not get the best idea of the car. So how they manage this practice session is going to be quite interesting as well. But now we ride on board with Felipe Albuquerque as he now goes past the famed Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel section.
He was preferring to do the Tokyo Drift through the Maggots and Beckett's Chapel
yes.
section. coming through there. It's possibly not the fastest way to go through that section. It's certainly the most fun, as he takes a bit of an off-track excursion there outside of Stowe. So it's still take a while to get used to these cars, but there's only about 7.5 minutes left in this session, so he's going to have to get used to these cars and quickly. You can see a little bit of damage to the front wing of that Lotus at the moment, which isn't exactly going to help, shall we say, but a couple of drivers now setting themselves competitive lap times. I just saw Da Costa head his way up into P number 12 here in the practice session, and of course there's been a little bit of shuffling further back as well. You got Agustin Canapino in P6 at the moment, and of course he's one of those drivers that has really embraced the sim racing side of things, perhaps before really a lot of these other drivers, because you can see him, he's a professional driver in Argentina, and he's also part of the Williams esports team as well here on the iRacing service, so he's completely and utterly used to how iRacing tends to run, and P6 at the moment, not too shabby.
Indeed, and all I've seen of Agustin Canapino, the only thing that I can think of is, wow, this man is absolutely fast. He has not failed to impress me. He's done a tremendous job so far. And in P6 at the moment, only 3.5 seconds, 3.5 tenths of a second behind Kelvin van der Linde. You can say he's not doing quite a shabby job. He's doing a good job at the moment. Again, we still have around 6.5 minutes of practice still left. So there's a lot of time for Canapino to still improve and still maybe gain a bit more time. But all I've seen of him, I've only been impressed. He's a good driver. Well, for all of you thinking about where the old man Rubens Barrichello is, well, he's old by an age, but he still is quite fast. At the moment though, he's still in P22 with a lap time of 1 minute 39.053, but don't worry, he's all quality, and hopefully by the end of this practice session, maybe through qualifying, he can climb a bit upwards.
Yeah, I'm also noticing Lando Norris at the moment off the mark, and speaking of off the mark, oh my word, that's a scary incident there for Agustin Canapino. Heavy contact with the tyre barrier, but thankfully this is sim racing. You can just get that reset back towards pit lane and get back out there, so not too much of a problem. But like I was saying, we see Rubens Barrichello there at the moment, P number 30 in the practice session, and Lando Norris is even further back than that, I'm seeing on my timing screen at the moment. So Lando struggling a little bit, Barrichello now up into P number 18, that's more like it, but for Lando and to an extent Nick Hamilton as well, it's not been a great session for them.
Well, you kind of get a feeling that both these drivers, they haven't really got a lot of experience in this sort of old cars. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're quality drivers and they know exactly how to get the best of a machine. But in a car like this, which is quite different to what we have in the present day, I think a lot of track time does help. And maybe if they can make the best use of this upcoming 5 minutes, they can do a tad bit better than they currently are in this practice session. So just more track time will help them out, and for sure, they're incredible drivers and they know exactly what they're doing. So the more time that they spend in a car, they get to learn more about it, they try to adapt a bit more, and in the end we all know about the quality of Lando Norris and Nicholas Hamilton. So I won't be surprised if they get anywhere close to the top 10. I mean, they're good drivers in the end, but I guess a bit more track time is exactly what they need at this moment, and they really have only 5 minutes to get that done before qualifying.
Yeah, and well, time in the session right now is fixed at 15 minutes past 1 in the afternoon, hence the short shadows and the blinding sunlight out there. Not the typical British day, I have to say, although it has been relatively warm recently, but still, I've got Kelvin van der Linde at the top of the timing screens, and this is a driver that has really surprised me throughout these Team Redline events, Sumil, because especially in these open wheel cars, he wasn't really a name that pops straight into my mind when it comes to fast drivers and open wheel cars, and he's actually besting Max Verstappen at the moment, which it really isn't an easy task by any means, and even when we went to the V8 Supercars, even when we went to the GTE machines as well in that previous series, Kelvin van der Linde was also still up there no matter what car he was driving. So he's seemingly very versatile, very adaptive to whatever is being thrown at him.
Yeah, Kelvin van der Linde, of course, being one of the more top-rated drivers in GT racing. And it's not just at GT racing that he's good at. We have seen time and again, you throw whatever at him, he will adapt and he will do a good job. And as you correctly mentioned, Max Verstappen, he's no slouch. And Van der Linde at the moment is currently approximately around 2/10 faster than Max Verstappen. That's not an easy task. You have to be an incredible driver to get that done. And Van der Linde by no means is a slouch. He's a tremendous driver and he's currently showing that quality in practice. However, we still have qualifying left, and as we all know, Max Verstappen just becomes a different beast altogether when the pressure turns on. So how he will react to that qualifying session with Verstappen breathing heavily down his back, that should be fun to see. But I'm pretty sure that Van der Linde, he will definitely be among the higher order in this race. Should be fun to watch how he drives.
Felipe Drugovich up into P2 here in practice, so Verstappen shuffled down to third, Juncadella in fourth at the moment, but just as I say that, Juncadella decides to go even faster there, but still not as fast as Kelvin van der Linde at the moment. He's just over 1/10 of a second clear of the rest of the field in practice. But this is just practice, Subil. Things can and very much do change when, like you said, the pressure gets applied. We switch over to the qualifying session, and all of a sudden, you only have 2 laps to be able to set yourself a competitive lap time. And we've seen drivers squander those opportunities already when we had that main season going on.
Indeed, I mean, practice and racing, well, that's completely a different ball game. I mean, if races won only in practice, I would be a world champion, but sadly, I'm a terrible driver in the real races. But that said, as you correctly mentioned, the pressure can get to some of these drivers, but remember, they are professionals. They've been doing racing for a very, very long time, and in fact, with Team Redline, you get some of the best drivers in the world competing alongside each other. So I don't think the pressure should get to them as much. It'll definitely be a factor, but what I'm really excited to see is how they clock in their 1-lap pace in qualifying, because in practice, you tend to knock in your consistent lap times, trying to gain a consistent line and a consistent length pretty much of where to brake, when not to brake, how to drive the car. But when it comes to qualifying, your approach is entirely different. You're looking for that quick 1-lap pace, and getting that done, well, some drivers are better than the others, that's all I can say. So watching that should be a lot of fun. At the moment it is Kelvin van der Linde in P1, Danny Juncadella in second, Felipe Drugovich in P3 and Verstappen in P4. And thankfully for us, all 4 of them are virtually under 2/10 of a second. So if this practice session is anything to go by, we should be in for a treat of a race.
Yep, we should be, as this practice session draws itself slowly but steadily to a close, with Van der Linde at top of the pile at the moment. Verstappen, 4th place in practice, but he can make a statement. He can really turn things up when required. He's just trying to explore the maximum of the track limits at the moment as he goes very wide through turn 14 at Priory, and now in towards left field. So that session will get switched over into qualifying mode. And will we see a different story from what we've seen in practice? That is the question. Max Verstappen needs to find another 1/10 of a second to maybe get himself pole position here if Kelvin van der Linde is able to be similarly competitive here in the qualifying session. So practice results up on screen for you now. You can expect to see the open wheel professional drivers up there, and they are, but the front 2 spots in practice are actually taken by GT drivers.
Well, it's quite a surprise, isn't it? Kelvin van der Linde and Danny Juncadella in P1 and P2. Felipe Drugovich in 3rd, Verstappen in 4th. Canapino in P5 with Sheldon van der Linde, the brother of Kelvin, in P6. Jordan Pepper, the Bentley factory driver, in P7, with Tom Dillman in 8th, another GT veteran, and of course a single-seater driver as well. And Sasha Fenitraz in 9th, and Bent Viscal in 10th. So as you correctly mentioned, GT drivers leading the way. So let's see where the Formula drivers will be coming in. And Tony Felix da Costa, a renowned name in P11, and Dries Van Tor is in P12.
Yeah.
Well, Lando Norris seems to be in P15.
Yeah, he was able to recover a little bit by the time that session is done, but still 0.8 of a second behind your fastest driver in practice, Alex Ellis, René Rast. You see Alex Palou, Alex Wincombe, and Dennis Marshall running up the top 20 in practice. Right now, drivers are out there setting their outlaps for the qualifying session. You see the likes of Barrichello, P25, Albuquerque in P26. And, of course, the rest of those names are going to come through on screen for you in just a couple of moments. But with that, practice is in the books, qualifying mode is engaged, and just to give everyone a little bit of a refresher in terms of how the solo qualifying works here in iRacing, everyone is alone out there on circuit as far as they're concerned, so there's going to be no influence from any other drivers, no draft that can be given, no contact at all. It's just the drivers versus the track, and they'll get 2 flying laps to be able to set their fastest time here today for these to get themselves the place on the starting grid. So there's a lot of pressure, especially if you mess up that first lap, Sumo, because even one incident point for going over the track limits here, that's going to invalidate your lap, and all of a sudden it's that second lap that really needs to be stellar.
Indeed, that'll be a lot of pressure for all the drivers involved. As you correctly mentioned, one tiny mistake and you could literally lose your qualifying lap. Another interesting factor to consider is just the quality of these drivers. You make one tiny mistake, one small error, maybe you go in a bit too hard into one of the corners, and you could lose a whole host of positions. Because we've got such a competitive grid over here, one tiny mistake can cost you dearly. The margin for errors in this particular race are going to be incredibly low, especially in every single one of the Team Redline races. So that should be one thing on the minds of all the drivers. Just make sure that you nail in the perfect lap, because if you don't, you could be starting all the way back in qualifying, and considering the quality of these drivers, getting back up is going to be one tough task.
And of course, we are actually going to use, it looks like, the heat racing system on iRacing here, but there's no heats going into a final feature. It's just how they've organized 2 races to be in the same server, so we won't have as big of a break between races as we had previously. So that is good to see. You can see Kelvin van der Linde at the moment on his fast lap here. At the moment, lap times are around about the 1 minute 38, 1 minute 37 mark. Those were the lap times set in the practice session. Let's see how things change here in qualifying, considering the track conditions can and do change. And we'll get those first provisional lap times up onto the board in just a couple of moments' time. They're already starting to come through, and, well, I can't wait to see how this one turns out. Max Verstappen, provisional pole position at the moment with a 1:36.862, and that's already about 0.2 of a second faster than he went in practice, so positive signs for the Dutchman.
Yeah, and the Dutch army in the comments section will certainly go pretty happy after looking at this lap time. But look at the competition. Filipe Drugovich, I think only 600 of a second behind him. So the heat is turning up, and now Van der Linde goes 400 of a second behind him. So it's not easy going for Max Verstappen. There are drivers right on there breathing on his neck. So that should be a lot of fun to watch in qualifying.
Yeah, it really is. As Junker Della yet to set a lap time at the moment, and I get the feeling he might have messed up his first lap here, because he did take a big wide line into Luffield. So Junker Della, he's gonna have to just do it on the 1 lap time, it seems. He was very quick in the practice session, but now he's just reduced himself to that one chance to set a good qualifying time to get a good position on the starting grid. We continue to ride on board with Max Verstappen at the moment as he's heading his way through the final sector now, through Priory. Get it slowed down as well for Brooklands before you get that change of direction into the hairpin of Luffield Corner. And then it's just flat out all the way to the line through Woodcut in just a couple of moments. And, well, Max Verstappen is a 1:36.863 on his first lap. What's it going to be for his second lap? It is slower, a 1:37.675 there for Max Verstappen. Kelvin van der Linde is slow. He won't be able to improve on his lap time either. I'm seeing the rest of the drivers come across the line now, as Brent Viscal is still out there, yet to come across the line. He does, and he actually promotes himself up further inside that top 10, up into P9. Augustin Canapino is done in terms of qualifying as well. He won't start any higher than 6th place in this one. So Van der Linde, seemingly a problem on his second lap, and he won't be starting any higher than 2nd place. Verstappen, well, he could possibly be challenged here by Daniel Juncadella as he heads his way through the final corner. Will the DTM race winner be able to put it on pole here for race number 1? Across the line he goes. A 1:37 flat is not going to be enough. A good lap time up onto the 2nd row, but not enough to surpass the F1 driver.
Yeah, that was indeed a good lap, and look at the gaps, look at the margins between both of them. And yeah, unfortunately not a good lap for Juncadella in the end. I mean, not good enough, you could say. On the whole, it was a good one, but only good enough to get him to 4th place. Verstappen though, still very much in provisional pole position. We still do have quite a few drivers on the track at the moment, so there could be, I mean, technically there are a few drivers that could challenge him, but in literal terms, looking at all that happened in practice, well, seems like Verstappen is in provisional pole at the moment, and Van der Linde only 0.04 of a second right behind him. Drogovic 0.06 of a second, Juncadella 1/10 pretty much, and Van der Linde. Yeah, where's Norris here?
P9.
Norris is in P9, yeah.
But yeah, you just see the yellow pen come out, and well, the top 4-5 cars all within very, very close vicinity at the moment. Juncadella and Linda especially, there's almost nothing to separate them in terms of qualifying time. But with that, I'm not seeing anyone else that is able to set themselves another qualifying time here. So we might just be good to get ourselves a starting grid here in just a couple of moments. But Sumil, it's Max on pole position, Kelvin van der Linde on that front row as well. And those guys were battling in the point standings in the main season, and it looks like they'll be battling on track once again.
Well, these two guys are pretty much like romantics. They just don't let each other go. And in the main season, we saw them getting pretty close to each other. Too close for comfort, you could say at times. And hopefully we get to see a lot more of that today, with other drivers getting involved as well. The starting grid, Verstappen and Van der Linde on the front row, with Felipe Drugovich in P3 and Danny Juncadella in P4.
Yeah, absolutely. There's 1.5 tenths of a second in your top 5 at the moment, with Sheldon van der Linde in that 5th spot, Franco Colapinto in P6, Augustin Canapinto in P7, and Fenestraz in P8. Norris grabs himself P9 on the starting grid. He has indeed shaved his hair for charity, thanks to the caption there, as Tom Dillman in P10, Rene Rast in P11, Brent Viscal will start P12. And then you look back towards P13, where you have Jordan Pepper 13th on the starting grid. Antonio Felix da Costa starts 14th. Dries Van Voort in P15. Alex Palou in P16. Esteban Move P17. Dennis Marshall in 18th place here today. Alex Ellis in 19th. And Miguel Gonzalez rounds out the top 20. And then you can see the rest of the field cycle itself steadily through. Albuquerque in P22. You see the likes of Barrichello, P26 there. And everyone else at the back of the field looking to try and make up maybe some early positions in the early stages of this race. Nick Hamilton in P34 for the BTCC driver. Of course, brother of Lewis Hamilton, who has yet to make an appearance in one of these events. I really want him to get himself involved in the action, but not at the moment. So we'll get ourselves our grid set here for the racing for race number 1. Sumel, just very quickly, your expectations.
Well, the only thing I can expect with these incredible cars is an incredible race. Verstappen and Van der Linde, I certainly expect them to go wild throughout this race. I hope that they make up for an incredible battle. As for the others, well, I think nailing down your consistent lap times will be a bit of a trick. As we saw in qualifying, not a lot of drivers were able to make sure that they got 2 consistent fast lap times. So making sure that they get that done over a longer distance is going to be one tricky task. So expect some entertainment, expect some drama, and above all, expect some good racing to honor the great racing legends, including Sir Sterling Moss, who sadly passed away. So guys, you're going to love this one. You're going to enjoy this one, and hopefully we can produce a great race for all the racing legends that we have seen over the years, who have inspired us, who have entertained us, and have made sure that we fell in love with the incredible sport that is motorsport.
Green flag out there then. Let's go racing for 12 laps in race 1. Kelvin van der Linde's had a horrible start from the front row. He spins in the middle of the pack. There's a massive instant coming across the start-finish line for the first time. Kelvin van der Linde up in barrel rolling down the pit straight there. That was a horrible start, a nightmare for Kelvin van der Linde. He's taken the tow already back to pit lane. Max Verstappen now alone at the front of the field. What happened to Kelvin? There's a bunch of wheel spin off the line. The most sluggish of sluggish starts there for the number 31 driver. And wow, well, hold on to your breakfast if you're in VR.
That's gonna be one crazy accident if you're in VR. But Van der Linde, it all went wrong for him just meters after the start. All that we expected, a good battle between him and Verstappen, well, it's all gone up in meters. He's just went flying around, went on a big barrel roll. Too much wheel spin at the start for Van der Linde, and unfortunately for him, his hopes and dreams of winning this race have gone up literally, well, for a toss.
Yeah, not quite in flames. That's not modelled in iRacing just yet.
Yeah,
but
true.
Certainly on his roof
for a
is
toss,
not
though.
the ideal way to end your race there. As back to the live pictures we go. Max Verstappen leading at the moment by about 1.5 seconds over the car of Daniel Juncadella. So he started P4. He's actually up into P2 now, is Juncadella. So making some good progress here on the race start. There's currently a battle going on for P number 6 and back at the moment. Canapino, Fenestraz, you have Jordan Pepper involved in this one as well. You're running on board with Jordan Pepper at the moment. It's just a little nose towards the inside of Copse Corner, but of course no commitment into there. It's a little bit too early to be going for dives like that. But Pepper at the moment, he's started P13, he's up into P number 8 now, so he's at a good start as well. But I think this is mostly because of all the carnage that happened on that front row.
Yeah, that was a chaotic start, and a lot of drivers have gained from that. Juncadella as well, especially, has now come up into P2. But Verstappen back there, my goodness. Oh, we see a car stopped on track. Who was that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to spot who it is. It's Niels Langeveld in the number 2 car, as they're side by side between Westbrook and Ellis coming through Stowe Corner that time around. As there's Langeveld struggling to get going. It looks like he's going to get back up to speed, the WTCR driver, but not entirely sure what's happening here. The front end of that car seems to be okay. He's just, for some reason, letting everyone by, coming down the hangar straight there. So not entirely sure what's going on with Niels there, but cycle to the back of the field he is now, and hopefully he can get going back up to pace. But with 2 laps in the books coming up towards the start of lap number 3 then. And, well, we have a spin up. That's Esteban Muth, the Blancpain GT driver. You have another car off as well out into the grass, which is unrelated to this incident. Muth having his problems there. And had to wait for just a little while for the rest of the field to come through. But a lot of drivers having problems here early on, Sumil. And well, this car is a bit of a beast to handle, and it's seeming like at least Kelvin van der Linde found that out in the start, that you can't just for it.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a handful at times, as we see a lot of drivers making mistakes here and there, spinning around a little bit. Well, we expected carnage, and we certainly have got a lot of it in the opening 3 laps. Now, though, we ride on board with Sheldon van der Linde, trying to make a move for P3. Van der Linde now down the backstretch. This could be one chance for him. And look at that, the replay. We're seeing just more and more carnage going by lap after lap. What happens here? So this one is Alex Buncombe, who had a broken front wing. Oh, he went wide and spins around over there, just on the grass. Got a little bit too much of the exit. The AstroTurf just tip on him. And Buncombe, well, he does a 360 and comes back.
I'll give that 5 stars for style, but none in terms of a competent line coming into Copse. Let's just say that. But at the moment, you can see we're on board with Augustin Canapino here, as he tries to lock onto the back of the car of Jordan Pepper ahead of him, as Pepper was able to get himself by on this previous lap. So his forward progress continues. The next car down the road for him will be Sasha Fenestraz. And not too far away either, just about a second further down the road. And maybe the objective here for Canapino might just be tuck inside that slipstream and allow Pepper to bring him to those front runners.
Yeah, that could be one approach that he could use at this moment. Canapino now in P8. But Jordan Pepper, well, he is in one tricky position. Now, for Jordan Pepper, you really want to get that place in, and you really want to get into P6. I mean, of course, in such a big race, you do want to get yourself into the top 6. But at the moment, not only does he have to attack, he also has to fend off a quality driver right behind him. So his approach should be a bit tricky to see. It'll be interesting to see what he does from here. But Jordan Pepper in a bit of a sticky situation at the moment, having to attack and defend both at the same time. Now, though, we look at a bit of racing going on for some of the top positions.
Replay.
Well, there's a replay coming up.
I think this is Westbrook, because I think he had a bit of a spin. There we go. It is Westbrook. Is it spin? Is it contact into Kops?
Oh,
Contact from behind. That's a big, big one. That's Alex Ellis behind him that actually went to the inside for Kops' corner, and unfortunately those cars came into a bit of a tangle. Westbrook punted out to the outside of Kops. Luckily there's a lot of runoff there. Damage is on, remember, but he decides to take the tow back towards pit lane regardless of how light the contact with the barrier was. But it was a big wheel-to-wheel contact with another car, so I'm not entirely surprised that he's brought that down into the pit lane. Finistraz, though, he's trying to fight for a top 5 spot with Franco Colapinto at the moment. You can just see him hounding the back of that Lotus ahead of him. And this is shaping up to be a pretty good battle. You can see some different lines being taken in through the final couple of corners here at the old Silverstone layout. And Colapinto holding on to position at the moment. But Finistraz, if he can work out a slipstream pass here coming down the hangar straight, or at least give him an opportunity in towards Stowe, then that might be the plan of attack. But right now he's just sitting behind, just applying the pressure, and that's simply what you have to do sometimes. There was a slight little bit of twitch oversteer from Colapinto coming through Kops, but he's able to keep it together, and he's able to keep the line into the absolutely brilliant Maggots and Beckett section. And Finistraz needs that good run out of the chapel now to be able to have an opportunity into Stowe, but he might just be a little bit too far back. I'm just sort of doing my best, Crofty impression there. Is, oh, this battle's getting close, Oh, no, he's not going to go for the move. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, exactly. And Finistraz at the moment, well, the only thing he needs to do is keep on applying the pressure. You might have heard from so many great commentators that, and in races like this, when cars that are so hard to pass with, you have to keep on applying the pressure, and that is exactly what Finistraz is doing at the moment, because you can't force your opponent into making a mistake, and that is exactly what you want to do, because these cars, they have so little downforce that passing, well, you need 300% confidence in your car to make a move down the inside. So having to do something like that, you need your opponent to make a big mistake, as we now see Canapino with a broken front wing. He's driving in P9. That'll definitely impact his racing at the moment. Well, he seems to be doing a good job, not impacting him as much, but when he tries to make a move or when he tries to defend, that'll certainly have a big impact. Now though, we take a look at this battle once again. Finistraz still chasing, still getting closer. This could be his chance. Franco Colapinto just goes wide on the AstroTurf. Could this be a chance for Finistraz for a move down the inside? Well, he doesn't seem to be close enough. He is close there, but not quite. And yeah, once again, as you spoke correctly, Connery, he's just trying to put the pressure on, trying to get closer and closer, and maybe forcing Colapinto into making a mistake and perhaps making a pass into Stowe. Now let's focus on a different battle. This is between Niels Langeveld, who slowed down in the field, and who is the other driver over here?
Yeah, and Langeveld at the moment, there's Kodrich ahead of him. 2020 Bathurst 12-hour class winner against the WTCR driver at the moment. I'm interested in this battle for P2 as well, because that is starting to close up between Junkadella and Drugovic. There they are up on screen for you. And Drugovic, big dive down the inside at Vale. They make contact through the corner. Junkadella out into the grass. What an aggressive move there, and perhaps overly so for Drugovic. That was a big lunge, and I don't think that was entirely kosher.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, with a car like this, you have to be super confident of the grip levels that you have. And that one, well, that just didn't end well. 2 into 1 doesn't go pretty much. And now Junkadella going on the cross, just ending terribly for him. And, well, we expected carnage, and we are certainly getting a whole lot of it at the moment.
Yeah, Sheldon van der Linde has been able to pick up the position as a result. Junkadella, look at that.
Oh.
There's the car on the inside directly into his left-hand side there. You don't really expect a big old lunge from that far back, and he was already kind of committed to the corner by the time that lunge has happened, so it's not the fault of Junkadella there, I would have to say. Drugovic just sending one, and well, it paid off for him, but it might not hold as far as the stewards are concerned. There's the side-by-side into Kops' corner. Colapinto, bit of oversteer off the corner. He'll shrug off a bit of speed. Here comes Jordan Pepper as well. We might even see 3 wide into the Maggots and Beckett section. We get it just marginally, but Jordan Pepper, 2 positions, 1 corner, but can he hold on? There's another look from Colapinto. Finistraz has been cycled back, and now Brent Fiscal is looking to get himself involved, but look.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, we have unfortunately just lost ourselves some of our audio feed. We will give you the live footage as you see it right now, and we'll get you some commentary back as soon as we possibly can. Okay, Conrad, you're going to have to give the details to Samil because I don't have his details at all. But whenever you're ready, start commentating now.
Hello everyone, welcome back as we had a slight technical error. Meanwhile, technical errors, mechanical errors out there on circuit. Sasha Fenestraz has had a problem here, and he'll get another look at it up on screen for you now. This is coming through towards the final sector, coming out of the bridge, and he just simply gets turned by that driver behind there, and Fenestraz is quite rightfully going to be very, very frustrated about how that was negotiated, because you can see his onboard just minding his own business through bridge corner, bang, gets hit from behind, gets turned around, and well, a trip for both of them through the grass and the gravel as well. So that's a shame there. That was shaping up to be an absolutely brilliant battle. It was at moments an absolutely brilliant battle, but unfortunately it's not going to continue here in towards the final couple of laps of this race. But there are still battles out there, remember, as Job van Uitert is involved in this one, as it's a poor run through the Chapel corner from Albuquerque, and he basically just gifts the position away to Uitert, but he's going to duck back in the slipstream. He's going to have a look around the outside coming through Stowe now, but Gonzalez is now getting himself involved behind this one as well. So there we go. That all gets negotiated in towards Stowe corner as Uitert continues on his way. He has 3.5 seconds down the road to Canapinto at the moment, which for just a couple of laps left remaining in this race is going to be perhaps not enough laps for Uitert to be able to do anything about that. But at the front of the field at the moment, Verstappen still leads by 1.7 seconds over Drugovic, but it still remains to be seen whether Drugovic will be able to hold on to that position, because we have now gotten official word that the Drugovic-Juncadella incident is now under investigation by the stewards, so we might see a time penalty being applied at the end of this race. But remember, this goes from bad to worse for Juncadella at the moment, because the starting grid for race number 2 does get set by the finishing results of race number 1. So it's unfortunate there that maybe this penalty won't affect the starting grid for race number 2, but it's just the card that he's been dealt, and perhaps the driver that's feeling the effects of this the most was that driver that had the problem on the start of Kelvin van der Linde, because he's back out there on circuit. He's actually still on the leading lap, is Kelvin van der Linde, but if he finishes where he is, he's going to have to start P27 for race number 2. Here's a replay of the number 39, Callum Elott. Oh, that's a big moment into Maggots and Beckett, and the drivers behind seemingly able to avoid that one. Great heads-up driving from those drivers behind there, Sumil, as that is always a good trait to have as a racing driver.
Yeah, this kind of racing, well, it just makes it so incredible for us and for the viewers as well. It's going on incredibly well. Now we look at Nicholas Hamilton now trying to make a move. Just not close enough over there. He's having an eventful race so far, Nicholas. I mean, he didn't really have the best of practice and qualifyings, but so far, it's getting all heating up over here for Nicholas Hamilton. Just closing in, trying to get good use of the draft. Is he close enough to make a move this time out? Hamilton tries to make a move down the inside. How many times have we heard that? Still, not close enough.
Yeah, indeed, not close enough at the moment. Hamilton, he's into the barriers. He goes onto his roof underneath the bridge that gives Bridge Corner its name. So Hamilton's going to be out of this event. There's the battle for positions just outside the top 10 as Ellis up into P14 at the moment. There's very many bent bits of bodywork out there, it seems. As you can see the car behind Ellis at the moment, that's Fenestraz, has a damaged front wing, and there's more damage being dealt out there at the moment.
Oh,
as Barrichello
boy.
gets contact from behind, gets sent out into the kitty litter. So it's seemingly a lot of front-to-rear contacts here in this race. Perhaps drivers not really judging their braking zones correctly. Although Barrichello, he was sliding it all the way through the final sector, but still, front-to-rear contact usually only one person to blame for that. But there are extenuating circumstances sometimes. But Barrichello, tough luck there.
Well, this car can't really be a handful, as we saw Barrichello over there just trying to get to grips with this car. I mean, you really have to fight this car to make sure that it goes in the place where you want it to go. Now, Esteban moved under real pressure. We see two cars going side by side with him. I want to pass. Oh, around the outside, and they make contact and then touch. One of them goes wide. Wow.
Wow, that's brilliant stuff in that battle. There's a car that's only spun around on the hangar straight. Albuquerque's had a problem. Not Hangar Street, excuse me. This is actually coming out of Club where he spun it. Number 34 of Albuquerque. But we are actually on the final lap here. Verstappen has basically been pretty clear at the front of the field. There's Albuquerque's problem out of Club corner. It was contact with Daniel Morads trying to work his way around the outside there through the exit of Club as Albuquerque snap there and just goes straight into the driver of Morad on his outside. So that's, again, another bit of contact in this race, and there's been lots and lots of contact. Fenestraz, I believe, has had another problem as he drops down through the field, but a driver who has had basically no problems because his closest competitor had the most horrible start that I've ever seen in a standing start on iRacing. Ever since then, Verstappen clear at the front of the field. He will end up coming across the line to win race number 1 as long as he keeps it on circuit for the final sector. I'm trying to not give him the curse of the commentator here, but Max Verstappen doing what he does best at the moment. 1.6 seconds over Drugovich at the moment, and we still have a bunch of investigations going on for many, many drivers, so these finishing results might not be final, but what will be final is Max Verstappen coming out on top. Into the final couple of corners then. He has a little bit of damage to his front wing there. That can be easily done.
Well, who doesn't?
If you take the curb a little bit too aggressively, you can see on the cameras at least that he had damage on his front wing. But Max Verstappen, no problems at all. The Dutchman heads his way across the line to win race number 1 of the Real Racers Never Quit. The tribute to racing legends. Verstappen, checkered flag. Drugovich comes across the line, classified P2, but we expect him to be cycled back as a result of an incident. Juncadella grabs a podium position here today. So there we go, Sumil. Verstappen, 1.6 seconds at the very end there over the rest of the field, and a lot of chaos further back.
Yeah, it was really quite an eventful race. In fact, I'm just thinking, why don't we rename it to Drive to Survive? This literally is Drive to Survive in the flesh. So many drivers crashing out, there was so much of carnage going around. An entertaining race for sure, but one man who would be proud of Max Verstappen's drive would be Sir Sterling Moss. Incredible racing by Max, very clean, very calm, very composed, just like Sir Sterling back in his day. Very composed driver Max Verstappen, and in the end he comes out as the winner, 1.6 seconds ahead of Felipe Drugovich. So incredible racing by Max Verstappen over there, proving why he actually was the Real Racers Never Quit champion. And Connery, well, I think it's a befitting tribute to what is, well, a great legacy that all these incredible racing drivers from the past have left behind, wasn't it?
Yeah, there we go. Top 10 up on screen for you. We will get a 2-minute warm-up before the next race. So we do have a bit of time to go through these. Miguel Gonzalez there, P11, Alex Ellis, P12, Callum Illott, P13, Niederhauser in 14th place, Morad 15th, Albuquerque 16th, and then the rest of the runners coming through down to the top 20 runners. But yeah, a bit of a chaotic race one. We can hope and pray that things calm down just a little bit in terms of the car contacts for race number 2. But we did see some good racing, especially positions just inside that top 10 with Canapino, Eaters. We saw Jordan Pepper involved in a lot of action here today as well. It's more of that sort of action that we want to see rather than the contact that we've seen.
Yeah, some clean racing would really make things a lot better. But again, a tough race this one for a lot of these drivers, trying to get a lot of control in this car. Well, it made for an eventful one, that's for sure, but hopefully we get some really nice and fast, clean racing. Now that these drivers have gotten a good hang of this car, I mean, they know a lot more about it with some good track time, it should be interesting to see how they manage this out. Well, one thing I'd really love to point out is one comment in the comment section. John Schroeder, if I have pronounced it right, has got the comment of the century. He has mentioned no social distancing in the fans, in the spectators. So, yeah, well, even if you're an iRacing spectator, remember, guys, stay home and maintain a lot of social distancing, and stay home to watch this incredible race.
What I'm seeing out there on track right now is actually pretty interesting, because a lot of drivers are on pit exit right now trying to practice their starts. Which is probably a good idea.
Well, Mr. Van der Linde, we're having a look at you.
I'm not seeing Kelvin van der Linde out there practicing his starts at the moment. Perhaps the driver that needs the most practice, considering how that race 1 start went. But there are drivers such as Sheldon van der Linde. There's Kelvin van der Linde. He is practicing his starts on the pit lane, which is probably not the best place to do it, but at least he's getting some practice in.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't get a lot of wheel spin as he did last time out. What a disaster that one was. He just got too much wheel spin and then just got collected by everyone. When flying around over there, you could pretty much say the Lotus 79 Airlines with Kelvin van der Linde at that start. Thankfully for him, there's another chance. There's always a second chance with these Team Redline races. And, well, if he can manage it out this time, he should be giving a tough competition to Max Verstappen. Here's the starting grid. Verstappen on pole position in P1. Felipe Drugovich in second. And will the drivers are now gridding up. So Felipe Drugovich in P2, Daniel Juncadella in P3, starting out the second row of the grid, and Van der Linde in P4, Ben Fiscal in P5, Franco Colapinto in P6, and now Canapino in P9, and we have the rest of the positions coming in. Yeah,
so the starting grid for this second race is exactly the finishing results from race number 1. So we'll very quickly cycle through. And we can get the racing up on screen in just a couple of moments as drivers are taking themselves to that starting grid. But Max Verstappen, just like race number 1, starting pole position. Drugovich on that front row with him this time around. Juncadella and Sheldon van der Linde will comprise of row number 2. So, just a couple of moments away from getting race number 2 started here on the Team Redline channel. Max Verstappen from pole position gets this race started. We're green flag racing at Silverstone once again. Another amazing start there from Max Verstappen, clear of Juncadella in towards turn number 1. There's a stack up there in through Copse for the mid-pack though. Couple of drivers going very, very wide, but somehow all of them are able to keep it together. Although I say that, there is a car out into the barriers. Sheldon van der Linde has been tagged around, coming through Maggots and Beckett's as well. So the mid-pack not faring well here on the race start. We'll get ourselves a replay up on screen. Here's the onboard with Franco Colapinto. You can see a couple of drivers going off ahead of him, and all of a sudden he just gets tagged around from behind and avoids the barrier, but seemingly cars can't avoid him as he'll take the tow back towards pit lane. There's more contact out there on circuit as we speak, but here's a replay of turn number 1 there. Lots of cars getting pushed wide through there, and you see 3 wide with Jordan Pepper involved, I believe, there. That just gets a little too close to comfort.
Oh my goodness.
We have a massive smash into Maggots and Beckett's for the first time, and at least we didn't have carnage instantly. It took 2 corners for them to have carnage.
I mean, all that ray of hope that we saw in the first couple of corners, that yay, no carnage, and then again it all went wild. Well, Jordan Pepper, he is one daring driver. We saw in the last race, we saw him making some incredible moves, some really risky ones, and this time he tried to make it happen. Unfortunately for him though, it's all ended in carnage. Now Max Verstappen being chased by Daniel Juncadella, only 6 tenths separating the two of them, and Verstappen had that incredible start. I mean, he just seemed to get no wheel spin at all. Just the ideal start that one could actually expect, and now Verstappen is doing an incredible job in P1, but Juncadella is not relenting. He is only 4 tenths behind him, and he could be closing up very, very shortly. So this pack is now just distancing away, social distancing in fact, from the rest of the grid, and it should be interesting to see what Juncadella does from here. Now they go past Maggots, Beckett's and Chappell. Juncadella, if I'm not mistaken, will be trying to make a move down the inside, heading into Stowe perhaps, trying to get use of the draft. Now Verstappen trying to escape the draft that Juncadella is getting. This should be fun. He closes in, Juncadella. We're now nearing the corner. Is he close enough for a move this time out? He closes in. Nope, not quite. There could be another chance though if he can get his braking extremely correct for the next corner. Juncadella could make a move for the lead. Well, not close enough. Verstappen defends very well, and Max Verstappen, as we all know him to be, is a quality defender, so it's not going to be an easy one for Danny Juncadella. That said, he's a quality driver and he can make his way past.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how this one plays out, since we are in the early stages of race 2, so in a way, there's no rush for Juncadella. He's not really getting pressured from behind at the moment. Drugovich has given him the space to be able to work with. So Juncadella's plan right now, just sit inside the slipstream of Verstappen, maybe try and, well, expect a mistake or maybe even force a mistake from Verstappen, but that's a very hard task indeed. You see battling a little bit further back as well. This is positions just inside the top 10. You have Kelvin van der Linde involved here in P7. We're on board with Eatert in P8. You can count Niederhauser in this train as well, as that's a poor run out of left field for Eatert. You can see how Niederhauser closing in now. Niederhauser to the outside for Kopp's corner here. Can he carry the speed in? Can't quite. Here comes Alex Ellis in that white car in the background. He's now very much in the foreground on the way into Maggots and Beckett's as he tries to capitalize on the compromise line. Niederhauser had to take through Kopp's and now through Maggots and Beckett's. Ellis is through by the skin of his teeth. Oh my word. Niederhauser might still have a chance here, but we'll get to see the replay. I don't know how Ellis made the gap here.
Well, that is some daring stuff. Alex Ellis just going down the inside. Well, there's one term that's popular in F1. Lick the stamp and send it, and he did send it in, Alex Ellis. My goodness. Well, just listening to you commentate, Connery, watching that move, I was just laughing out of happiness. What an incredible move that was. Well, these are the kind of moments that send a shiver down the back of your spine. Incredible racing this, as now Ellis goes a bit wide and there's a move made on him around the outside. Now they're going side by side here. Alex Ellis has now gone down to P11. Here he is trying for a fight back. This could be his opportunity, trying to make a move around the outside.
Verstappen's had a problem. I'm sorry to interrupt, Sumil, but Verstappen, he tries to rejoin the circuit and he actually collects a couple of cars. It's happened directly ahead of these guys. You can just see the tail end of it. But Verstappen, is it a mistake? Is it a battle? It's actually a battle for the race lead in towards, oh my god, in towards the corner. And it's Juncadella basically being pushed out there by Max Verstappen. He had the outside line. We'll get to see it up on the replay now. You can see them side by side in towards the braking down zone. Juncadella in that blue car, Verstappen in the orange. Verstappen didn't leave him enough space on the exit of the corner, crowds him off the circuit like Hamilton, and Max Verstappen pays the price.
Well, oh my goodness, that is a big shunt that Verstappen has had to face. And we said that there was some interesting battle brewing in between Verstappen and Juncadella. And guess what? It has ended in chaos. Verstappen going on the grass just a little bit, getting tagged along by Juncadella over there. And it has ended in tatters pretty much for Max Verstappen. What was turning out to be a good race for him, well, it's now just a bit of carnage going around. Alex Palau also involved in that accident, but at the moment, guys, in the lead is Felipe Drugovich. From pretty much nowhere, Drugovich has made full advantage of this move, and right now he is in the lead. So a perfect opportunity for Drugovich to try and get a race win. Canapino now in P2 with Antonio Felix da Costa in P3. Well, Juncadella, that was a huge, mighty huge accident, but still he's only down to P4, so there still is a chance for Juncadella to try and get up into P1. He has been fast racing this weekend so far, only 2.4 seconds behind Felipe Drugovich.
Yeah, and I have one thing to say to Max. You always have to leave the space on the exit of the corner.
All the time.
Yeah, you always have to leave the space, and fortunately for Juncadella, no space was given by Max through there. It does change the complexion of this race a little bit, because now Felipe Drugovich leads this race by about 1.3 seconds over Agustin Canapino at the moment. You see this battle between Antonio Felix da Costa and Juncadella at the moment, as Juncadella, big little wiggle coming out of the Copse corner, but able to keep hold of it, and that's been the task for all the drivers out there today, is just to keep hold of these cars. You can see a little bit of front-end damage to Juncadella at the moment as a result of that incident, but that car is still seemingly competitive.
Yeah, that car really is a lot of fun to drive, and well, look at that. Danny Juncadella having a broken front wing, so things are not going pretty well for him at the moment. Could be a bit challenging for him to drive this car as it has been for all the other drivers. Well, the only thing you can say about this car is it can be a bit moody. It can be very, very hard to contain. And just driving it safely and driving it to a race win can be a very commendable task. Now, Juncadella just closes into Da Costa. This could be his chance for P3. Well, we look at the leaderboard over here. Felipe Drugovich leading, Canapino in second, Da Costa in third, Juncadella in P4, Job Van Wieter in fifth, Patrick Niederhauser in seventh, Ellis after that incredible move that he made over there in P7 with Albuquerque in P8. But now let's focus on this battle over here. Juncadella, Felix Da Costa and Canapino battling it out for P2. Drugovich seems to be in the lead comfortably with a 2-second gap, but now Juncadella is really closing in. Antonio Felix Da Costa just sliding around a little bit. Oh, look at that, Juncadella nose to tail with Felix Da Costa, but now he gets a bad exit, and this could be it. He leaves the space over here. Da Costa opens the line up, but Juncadella just can't put his nose over there, and now he has to wait for a few more corners to try and get back into P3.
Yeah, and Drugovich continues to extend the gap over this group as well, as they decide to have a little bit of a scrap. Gap is 2 seconds between P1 and P2, so it looks like Drugovich trying to run away while the rest of these cars squabble over those final couple of podium positions. Da Costa trying to defend from Juncadella at the moment. And remember, this is a Juncadella basically on a partial recovery drive, because Da Costa's a bit too hot in towards Chapel, and that'll give the run to Juncadella coming down the hangar straight, then use as much of that slipstream as is possible to set up for the move down the inside at Stowe. Juncadella's going for it, and actually Da Costa broke a little early there to let him through.
Yeah, that is a good move by Juncadella. He just was allowed to get into P3, but now this is where his recovery drive begins. He's now into P3, and he could be on the way to P2. But before that, he has to pass one incredibly talented racer in Agustin Canapino. He's not an easy task. Canapino is not a slack, as we see a lot of drivers, I think, going on the grass. Let me just quickly confirm who was that. And that was... well, that was Richard Westbrook heading onto the grass. Yeah. So it's all going wrong for Richard Westbrook over there. He's having a decent race, but then just went on the grass. Now we take a look at his replay at Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Now heading on the curve and just gets a bit too much of the grass. Just spins out around, and his race is, well, it's pretty much gone at the moment.
Yeah, the back end stepped out and didn't want to step back in. So it's,
that's a good one.
Sends him out into the grass. And Westbrook, unfortunately for him, race number 1 was one to forget, and race number 2 seemingly on the same theme at the moment for him, as on board with Antonio Felix da Costa at the moment, as he's sort of starting to lose touch now of P2 and 3. He also has a slight bit of damage to his front wing, but not as much as Juncadella has. But the Juncadella is still going faster in that very bright cyan color. Who's that gone around? I believe this. Yes, Dries van Voort has had a problem here. Is it helped by anyone else, or is it all on his own? Looks like all on his own. Gets a slide through there and can't quite recover it by the time Brooklands arrives, so decides to loop it around instead. And, well, no contact with any barriers or any other cars, so he's... battle for P2. Canapino and Juncadella are scrapping it out On the live pictures, there they are. Juncadella just about able to get himself through, but Canapino has to run back off the corner, forces Juncadella to go defensive into the Abbey chicane, but Canapino, no commitment around the outside, instead decides to take the more optimal line through the corner and maybe challenge into the final sector through bridge. Is there going to be a dive from Canapino? His priority is certainly a corner where he can just lunge it in there, but he's not going to. Antonio Felix da Costa goes for the lunge though at Brooklands.
Oh, he licks the Samp and he sends it in. Now we take a replay of Canapino losing that position, and look at that, Danny Juncadella just forcing his way past. That is tremendous racing over there. So Danny Juncadella starting his recovery drive and is now in P2, and now his eyes are set for that leading position. Well, look at that fight back from Canapino as well. Now he just tries to make a move. Look at Antonio Felix da Costa. He just pops in from nowhere. So a bit of a Pokemon reference, but a wild Antonio Felix da Costa has just appeared and is doing a tremendous job. Now look at this replay. Da Costa will now be making his way into P2. We missed that on the main camera, and now look at that. He will come into Brooklands and just sends it. Antonio Felix da Costa, you beauty. That was a daring move over there. And to get that car into control and making that move down the inside, well, it takes a great deal of guts, and Antonio Felix da Costa has certainly got a lot of them.
Canapino has no idea what hit him there, as that was a big old surprising move down the inside. Very daring indeed, and it's a high-risk move as well, because if that driver ahead of you is already committed to the corner and committed to their line and doesn't have inhuman reactions, then you're going to make an instant into there, but fortunately for those drivers involved, no contact made, and Da Costa is able to get himself through. We're on board with Harry Tinkle at the moment as he tries to solidify his position inside the top 10. He has Christopher Mies ahead of him there in that number 36 car. And, well, top 10 finish here for Harry is going to be a pretty good progress since the start, considering he started P number 18. And this will mean that, well, if he gets this position done, he'll be gaining 8 positions since where he started. But Mies from the back of the grid as well. He started actually P20. So a lot of the drivers that started near the back here have found themselves at the front. You can just see the entirety of the top 12 has gained positions since the start, and Mies the best amongst them.
Yeah, Mies getting up 10 positions, and now look at this battle. Juncadella, Antonio Felix da Costa and Canapino, they're getting back on it once again. They are just not relenting. Now Canapino having da Costa, in fact, I'm sorry, having to defend very hard from Canapino as they now go into the SS section for this long straight coming up. This could be a chance for Canapino to just get the draft and try to make a move down the inside, or perhaps if you're daring enough, maybe even around the outside. This could be a chance for Canapino now. Where does he go? Inside or outside? Could this be a chance for him? Well,
way too far back.
To simply put it, yep, nope, not exactly a chance. And when controlling these cars is a hard task as well, because when these Lotus 79 snaps, they snap as bad as an Asian mom yelling on their child. So this is a pretty hard car to contain, and making moves like the one that Da Costa did can be quite tricky. So Canapino has to replicate that. He has fallen back from P2 to P4, but again, there's ample of time for him to make a move and perhaps get back into P3. Now here he comes, 2 tenths close for Da Costa. Not close enough. Da Costa once again blocks off the line, and say what you want about him, he is an incredible defender, isn't he, Connery?
Yeah, he's holding on to position for the moment, but we've still got a couple of laps to go here in this one. 3 laps to go next time these guys come across the start-finish straight, so a bit of time to work with, but not a lot. Da Costa wide through the middle of Luffield. Some drivers preferring to actually take a double apex through there instead of just hugging the inside. We haven't really seen a stark difference in those 2 lines in a particular battle, but it's certainly something of note. You see Langeveld at the moment, he has a lot of front wing damage, but seemingly still able to hold on to P14, trying to chase Seb Morris in P number 13. There we go. There's the front wing, and, well, that's not how a front wing should look by any means. But,
Indeed.
But there we go.
Well, yeah. Things happened across the race, and now Langeveld now trying to make that move for P13, just not close enough. Once again, a lot of drivers have been trying really hard, but in fact it's only a few drivers who have been able to make a clean and clear move to get into position. Now though, we ride on board with Agustin Canapino, one of the more entertaining drivers on the grid, and he is chasing yet another entertaining driver in Antonio Felix da Costa, who is again chasing yet another entertaining driver in Danny Juncadella. So entertainment all around as these three scrap it out for P2 at the moment. Canapino only 3/10 behind Felix da Costa, but again, it's a hard task to pass Antonio Felix da Costa. He just doesn't let go of that position very easily. I mean, to put a good reference, he is just like a young kid, a newborn pretty much, grabbing the hand of his mother. He just doesn't let go of that position. Now Da Costa is under relentless pressure from Canapino, but again, he is just blocking his lines supremely.
Yeah, he's doing a good defensive job at the moment. Both of these guys are actually catching Juncadella, so he might catch a bit of this before this race is done, depending on the set of circumstances here for P3 and 4. So it might be all the podium positions involved in this one if, well, Juncadella is not too careful. But again, look how close they get in towards Cop's corner. That very, very fast right-hander. Canapino has to be careful not to track out too wide through there, because we've seen some drivers have a spin up over that curb on the AstroTurf there. So just keep it within the track limits and you should be okay. Slightly different lines taken by the two of them coming through the exit of the Maggots and Beckett section. Canapino is going to have a whole bunch of slipstream on the way into Stowe Corner. It's certainly going to be enough for a lunge if he wants to go for one. Da Costa, went slightly defensive, then returned back to the normal racing line. Canapino's not going to be too happy about that one, as it was a bit of an indecisive move as to whether to go defensive there from Antonio Felix da Costa. And, well, Canapino, I think he might end up being more aggressive as a result, just to show him that wasn't okay.
Yeah, he could be, and with only 2 laps to go, and if he wants that position, he certainly needs to be a lot more aggressive. Well though, because if you crash, you could easily lose that P4 position that you have at the moment as well. Now Canapino getting even closer. This could be perhaps his best run on Felix da Costa. Here's his chance. Can he make a move down the inside? Not quite. Da Costa once again blocking off the lights, but we saw Da Costa making a move over here a couple of laps ago. Can Canapino get it done? Not close enough, and now this is becoming a 3-horse race as now Filipe Drugovic just drives away into the distance, leading this race very, very comfortably. Now Juncadella as well struggling a little bit. His car is sliding around, and now Antonio Felix da Costa senses that this could be his opportunity to get back into P2, the position where he was only a few laps ago. Canapino now heading into turn 1. Still not close enough. Putting the pressure on, but Connery, who do you think is going to come out on top? This is incredible, isn't it?
Felix da Costa had a bad run out of Stowe, so he was under threat there coming into the Magnus and Beckett section, but Canapino didn't really have a lane to work with. These guys are also trying to lock onto the back of Juncadella as well, as he tries to get himself a bit of a distance between himself and the pair behind. But you can see Felix da Costa will sit inside the slipstream. He has a big head of steam in towards Stowe Corner. Juncadella has to go defensive. But look at that, Felix da Costa trying to go around the outside. He might be able to make this work. Slight bit of contact on the way in towards the Vale chicane. Still side by side through here. Felix da Costa's through. Juncadella has now gone back into P3. Canapino still looking to try to pick up the pieces here, but this one is still not done. We still got a sector to go. We'll get a quick replay up on screen for you now as da Costa heads his way through, but they're continuing to fight, and actually Felix da Costa's been tagged around on the live pictures. That battle will be spoiled, but Juncadella and Canapino are still going to fight here through the final couple of corners. We'll wait for this replay to run through here as they're still scrapping it out now, but Juncadella has pushed wide and Canapino will be through up into P2. Drugovic run to the line. He will win here in race number 2. Juncadella, he'll have to settle for 3rd as Augustin Canapino goes from 4th to 2nd in the final lap.
Well, the only thing I can say here is absolutely intense. Look at that battle that we had here between Antonio Felix da Costa, Juncadella and Canapino. Look at that, how close they were. Juncadella just could see an opportunity into Antonio Felix da Costa as they now make that exit. They were just so close. Antonio Felix da Costa made an incredible move to get into P2, and now once again it just got all spoiled over. Things got a bit too intense. This was his Juncadella's chance. He tapped Felix da Costa and he just spun around while well, I feel so sad for Antonio Felix da Costa. That was an incredible race for him. What a drive he had made. And Daniel Cadella, well, he gets into P3, but not exactly in the fashion that he would have wanted to. So in the end, Felipe Drugovich winning convincingly by 6 seconds. But man, that battle between Antonio Felix da Costa, Canapino and Jun Cadella, that's my nightmare. That is insane.
There's da Costa as he slid his way through. And then, unfortunately, he gets a little bit of contact here coming up towards the final sector, because this battle certainly wasn't done, as he had to be immediately defensive into the Abbey chicane, and a bit of contact there spins him towards the outside of the circuit. He won't be finishing on the podium here today. Instead, it was Canapino and Jun Cadella in P2 and 3, but take nothing away from Felipe Drugovich, because he was there when Max Verstappen and Jun Cadella came together a little bit earlier on in the race. He wins by 6 seconds over the rest of the field. There's your official race results. Augustin Canapino P2, Daniel Jun Cadella in P3, Antonio Felix da Costa P4 here today, Job van Eetert in a top 5 finishing position, Alex Ellis in P6, Patrick Niederhauser in P7, Callum Illett in P8, Christopher Mies in P9, and Dennis Marshall will round out your top 10. And then you see Harry Tinknell in P11, Niels Langeveld in P12, Seb Morris P13, Richard Westbrook in P14, Martin Kodrich in P15, Philippe Albuquerque P16, Miguel Gonzalez 17th, Max Verstappen, after an early incident with Jun Cadella, cycles back into the 18th spot. Nicholas Hamilton in P19, and Dries Dan Voor rounds out the top 20. Sumo, you have the rest of them.
Well, then we have Daniel Morar in P21, Esteban Moot in 22, Kelvin van der Linde in 23rd, René Rast in 24, Alex Buncombe in P25, Ben Fiscal in 26, and Lando Norris, the man, in P27. Not the best of races for him. Then Sheldon van der Linde and Jordan Pepper, well, an unfortunate crash for them. They were doing such a good job in the first race, along with Franco Colapinto as well. Sadly, though, didn't quite end well for them. Then we have Tom Dillman, Alex Palau, Atze Kirchhoff, and Didier Kins, in fact, I'm sorry. Not really the best of races for them, just ended pretty much in the first lap as well. In the end, though, that was some intense racing, and I've got to say, I think there's no better way to spend your night. I think that's an incredible way to enjoy a lovely, lovely Wednesday night, and, well, that kind of racing just makes you feel so happy. It's intense. It's amazing.
Yeah, very intense. Got a little bit too intense for Max, though, but sometimes that's how racing goes here, as Max Verstappen wins race 1. Drugovich wins race number 2 here today, and, well, a lot of frantic action up and down the field, perhaps sometimes getting a little bit too close for comfort, but that finishing battle there for the final podium positions was certainly quite something, as that was on a knife edge throughout the final couple of laps, and Canapino comes out on top in that particular battle. But Sumel, it seems like the old layout of Silverstone is still good enough to deliver.
Yeah, indeed it is. The kind of racing that we saw over here, it certainly proves that this layout, well, it's got a lot in it yet. And these cars that we saw here today, oh my goodness, the kind of intensity that we saw in the racing, they was just so hard to control. And the drivers really had to fight for it. No downforce and just not enough mechanical grip. That was incredible, wasn't it, Connery?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant indeed. And we're currently waiting to see if there's going to be any interviews, but of course we had a last-minute change in terms of our commentary setup here, so drivers might not be able to get to us here at the moment, but might be just about time to wrap up then, as I've been Connery Maddock. I've been joined by Sumil Aurora on the commentary, Will Vincent behind the scenes pushing all those buttons to make those wonderful graphics happen, and Isfan Ballo for providing us our track TV pack that we use here on Race Sport TV for all of our broadcasts. Thank you guys very much for watching. This has been the Real Racers Never Quit series special event, a tribute to motorsport legends here at Silverstone. We'll see you guys next time.